because sometimes you'll find stuff you do recognize and then you can inventory that as well. It's a good check to go into your wireless network settings. They have that little web page and it'll say connected devices. That's the page you're looking for inside there. And then you can verify against your list. Then what you want to do is take action on any unrecognized devices. If you identify a device that you don't recognize and you locate it in your router, but you can't find it in your house, you can actually exclude it from your network by selecting it and saying block or block internet or remove from the network. You can, because that device has to send kind of like a signature to the router, which we call a MAC address, because they send that MAC address to the router, it's a unique identifier, and that unique identifier you can tell your network to don't let it do anything. And so that's one way that you can, we call that a MAC exclusion list, and that will allow you to kick things off the network that you don't want on the internet. It's also a good thing if you have like a tablet that's old, but you want your kids to be able to watch movies on it, but you don't want it to have internet access anymore. You can do the same thing. You can exclude it from the wireless network. It'll only work independent of the network. The next thing is number 5, remove old or unused devices. If a device is no longer used or is outdated, you can remove it from your network. This reduces security risks since old devices might not be getting updates. So a good rule for whether or not you should remove a device from your network is, does the manufacturer give that device updates anymore? You need to come to a decision as to, am I okay with the risk of of potentially having a security breach on my system, or is it time to just lay down the money and buy a new phone? You can always get last year's phone or the year before that, and usually they're pretty good for about 4 or 5 years. They'll still get updates. Their hardware will still be able to get updates. Going back just for a minute, back to number 4, checking for unrecognized devices. If you find an unrecognized device on your wireless network, change your Wi-Fi network password. That way, that device can no longer connect to it. If someone has stolen your password and put a device on your network that you don't recognize, just change your password and it will exclude them. They'll have to steal your password again. Number 6 is super important. This is called patch night. Okay, do not skip this step. You must do a patch night at least 4 times a year. You should probably do one 12 times a year. What is a patch night? That is a night where you take all of your devices and you make sure that they have all their current updates. Security patches will correct some security problems that are on your network. They can also correct hardware issues that you're having on your network. So update the smart appliances, your smart devices, all of your software. Now, why am I separating those two? Well, one type of update, it's called firmware. There's a software package that's built into this system that tells the graphics chip to talk to the screen, to talk to the battery, to make sure everything is working on a hardware level, like physical almost level. That's called a firmware. That software is called firmware, and that firmware controls the firm device's parts. So you want to update the firmware every now and then because sometimes they can update the security settings. Inside your firmware, you have apps, right? So your apps, that's called software. You need to update the software as well.